A listomania. Think less but see it grow.
Hello everybody, the Lawn Gnome is here, and welcome to what may be one of my greatest triumphs, my August 2015 10 for 12. If you haven't seen 10 for 12 before because you're new to my channel, of course there's a playlist provided in the box below, but today is a 5-way collab in the world of 10 for 12. I have teamed up with 4 excellent YouTubers to give you guys a great theme, and that is 10 underground pop culture items. Now, what is actually classified as underground? Well, it could be a couple of things. In this case, because we're talking about movies, a movie that has a huge cult following, a movie that didn't do too well in the box office when it first came out, but then developed a massive following when it came out on DVD and Blu-ray, or it just could be a movie that's out there, or even an older movie that nobody has seen or heard of but really should watch. We've got Tim from the Late Reviews, he'll be doing music, my good friend the notorious Mr. Beagle, who will be doing video games, Bryan Lomax from Bryan Lomax Movie Talk, who will be going out of his comfort zone and doing television. Very excited to see your videos, sir. And, of course, Olga from the Fairy Tale Whale, who inspired me to make this video, and she will be bringing us underground books. But for now, we're here to talk about underground films, so let's get started. The number 10 on my list is a real far-fetched one. It will probably never be looked at as a classic, but it is definitely one of the weirdest movies that I have ever seen. And that is Aqua Teen Hunger Force, movie film for theaters. I loved Aqua Teen Hunger Force. It was the most random show I had seen on Adult Swim, and I am the proud owner of all of the DVD released seasons so far. I know that there are a couple more down the line, and apparently the show is continuing on. But the movie is so hilariously bizarre. I can't get enough of it. I haven't watched it in a while though, but I definitely plan to watch it very soon. But I was so upset that it wasn't in theaters across New York. It was literally in 2 theaters in New York City for exclusive engagement, so I never had the opportunity to watch it. But god damn, that movie is so bizarre, so out there, but so freakishly hilarious. Number 9 is a 1979 cult classic film, and I call it cult classic because most people who have seen this movie love this, and it's The Warriors. It is a glammed tale of street gangs in New York City. It's the story about one going from Coney Island to a meeting of all the gangs being united by this powerful gang member called Cyrus, who gets assassinated by someone, but someone else blames the Warriors. So it's all a matter of the Warriors taking a trek from the Bronx to Brooklyn, and all of the obstacles along the way. It has some of the best costumes and makeup that you will ever see. It's not the best acting, but it is so much fun. I highly recommend The Warriors. Number 8 is actually based on a comic book. I did get a chance to see it in theaters, and it is directed by Sam Mendes, one of my favorite directors, The Road to Perdition. It stars Tom Hanks and the late Paul Newman, as well as Jude Law and Stanley Tucci. This is one of the most unique performances that you will ever see from Tom Hanks. He's the leading character, but he barely says a word. And he also plays a gangster, which is so interesting to me. I've never seen him play the anti-hero, and that's why I love this movie so much. It's so well acted. It got snubbed at the Oscars. I felt that he and Paul Newman should have at least gotten a nomination for this film, with an exceptional score from Thomas Newman. If you haven't seen this movie based on the graphic novel of the same name, you will see one of the greatest Tom Hanks performances as far as I'm concerned. Number 7 is a great one. It was the first movie that ever brought me to the website known as Rotten Tomatoes. I love Edgar Wright, but I love his right-hand pen man, Joe Cornish, and this was his first directed film. It's Attack the Block. What's the best way to describe it? Inner city meets outer space. Alien invaders attack a London project. That's amazing! It's such a great and fun movie. It's got excellent dry British humor. Nick Frost is in this movie. I don't know what else I can possibly say about Attack the Block. People were raving about it on YouTube. As a matter of fact, this was the point in time where I was actually starting to think about making my own YouTube show. And I went out and I bought this movie, and I love this movie so much. It's right up there with the Edgar Wright films starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, but I highly recommend that you see this movie. It also stars John Boyega Boyega, who is going to be in Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, so if you want to see one of his earlier pieces of work, I highly recommend that you see Attack the Block. Number 6 is UHF. I know a lot of people do know about it, but it's Weird Al Yankovic in a movie, for crying out loud. This movie was never meant to take itself seriously. It's one of the silliest comedies that I have ever seen. Throw in hilarious performances from Fran Drescher and Michael Richards, and you get a real fun, loving comedy. I can't stress that enough. It is by no means brilliant, but it is stupid, silly, and funny with a Weird Al Yankovic soundtrack. And Weird Al is so funny in this movie. You have to be a movie fan to appreciate a movie like UHF, because there are so many parodies, and that's what Weird Al does. He's the king of parody, and he truly brings his talents to light in UHF. Number 5 is School Ties. Some people have seen this movie, but a lot of people haven't. It came out in 1993, and it starred a whole bunch of unknowns now known. Who are these people? Brendan Fraser, Anthony Rapp, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and Chris O'Donnell. It's a very moving story about a Jewish boy from Scranton, Pennsylvania, who has to hide his identity in order to be accepted into a Catholic prep school in Massachusetts so he could play football for them to get into Harvard. It is such an amazing movie about really truly figuring yourself out and coming to grips and appreciating who you are. And the tagline for the movie says it best. Just because you're accepted doesn't mean you belong. It has some amazing performances. It's definitely one of Brendan Fraser's and Matt Damon's greatest, so I highly recommend that if you haven't seen School Ties yet, you really should. Number 4 is a very far-fetched choice for me. It is The Mating Habits of the Earthbound Human. It stars Mackenzie Astin, Sean Astin's older brother, just in case you don't know who he is, Carmen Electra, and the voice of David Hyde Pierce. What is this movie about? It is the ultimate chick flick. Boy meets girl, boy falls in love with girl, boy marries girl. Now take that whole story and turn it into a National Geographic special narrated by an alien. And it's basically to teach alien species how humans mate. If you have never heard of this movie, I highly recommend that you see it because it is flat out funny as hell. I showed this movie to my fiance. She thought it was so silly, but she did appreciate what it was. Again, the movie is called The Mating Habits of the Earthbound Human. It is one of the greatest comedies I have ever seen in my eyes, and next to nobody knows about it. Number 3 is a dark teen comedy called Charlie Bartlett. At the time, it starred an unknown Anton Yeltsin, as well as Kat Dennings, and Robert Downey Jr. before he decided to become Iron Man. This is one of the most underrated teen comedies that I have ever seen in my life. It is so well done, so well acted, and so well written. And if you happen to be a fan of the show Degrassi, The Next Generation, you will see a couple of cast members in there, and you may find R&B sensation Drake making an appearance in that movie as well. It's such a great story of a kid that's just trying to be accepted, and he'll go through any means to get there, even if it means setting up therapy sessions in a boy's bathroom. Charlie Bartlett is the movie. I highly recommend that you see it. Number 2 came out in January of 2015. It is a most violent year. I cannot stress enough how amazing this movie is. Oscar Isaac and Jessica Chastain, as well as David Oyelowo and Albert Brooks, gave me one amazing film. It is still the best film that I have seen this year. A lot of people refer to it as a gangster movie, but I still don't see it, even though it does have those elements, but it's not. It's a very different movie, and the only reason that I wanted to see this movie was because it takes place in New York City, where I am born and raised, in the year that I was born, which is 1981. And apparently, statistically, it is the most violent year for New York City because it had the most violence, thefts, and rape. So I had to see what was going on in the world when I came into this world. And I got one of the best, well-acted, well-executed films of the year. They don't make movies like this anymore. This reminds me of a movie from the 1940s and 50s, the true golden age of cinema. if you haven't seen this movie, and especially if you're an Oscar Isaac fan, because so many people have become Oscar Isaac fans because of Ex Machina, and more will become Oscar Isaac fans when he does Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens and X-Men Apocalypse. But see this one specific movie. I guarantee you, if you are a true appreciator of film, A Most Violent Year will not disappoint you. And the number one film that I have chosen is an anime classic. There are so many Studio Ghibli film fans out there, and people love The Princess Mononoke, The Tales of Princess Kaguya, and of course everybody loves Spirited Away. But next to none of these people have seen Grave of the Fireflies. If that movie would have come out now, it would have been known as one of the greatest war films of all time. People have called it the greatest war film of all time. I agree with those people. It is such a powerful, moving film, and it's anime! It came out in 1988, along with another cult classic, Akira, and next to nobody I know has taken the time to see this movie, either because they're afraid because it does hit on a lot of hard points, two, because you literally have to have a box of tissues with you if you want to see this movie, because this movie is going to make you cry. It made me cry. I'm not giving away any more about this movie because no one needs to talk about it. People have to go and see Grave of the Fireflies. You can find it anywhere you go. It is one of the most underrated, underappreciated films that Studio Ghibli has given us, and that movie is the reason why I appreciate Isao Takahata's directed films in the Ghibli film library more so than Hayao Miyazaki's, because he just brings so much realism to his films, and that's why I like The Tale of Princess Kaguya a lot too. But there you go, guys. That's my 10 underrated films. I appreciate the fact that you came to watch today, and I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody else who is doing this collaboration with me is going to do, and there will be links provided for their videos in the box below. So I'll see you guys in the next 10 for 12, and actions speak louder than words.